I take one piece of long form video content, which in this case is a recorded podcast episode, and turn that into a bunch of different types of social media and different types of content. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a program called Descript for this. Now, Descript does have a free version, but the free version is pretty good for your basics. Now, the reason I like this one is it uses what we call transcript-based editing, and you'll see why I love that as we go through this. I love it for the purpose of repurposing. There we go. Now, it's not the most high-tech video editor out there, but you don't need it to be. It's no, DaVinci Resolve, it's no Premiere Pro, but the transcript-based editing and the AI tools that it has in it make it perfect for repurposing bits of video content for socials. Now, yes, CapCut can do something fairly similar. I just find it a lot slower and a little bit clunkier. And I know that some of the Apple programs have similar functionality. So use whichever one you want to use. The basics are probably the same across most of the video editors, but this is just to show you how I can squeeze one bit of content into multiples. So what I'm going to do once this opens, I'm going to hit new project, new video project. I found this one beforehand to speed things up. You'll see it's doing file optimization and uploading and transcribing. So it takes a couple of minutes. So we just have to grab a cuppa while it does it. Mine's empty, unfortunately. Okay, so we have our transcript up, and as you can see, it's actually done pretty well with it. So you can see now a bunch of text that is exactly what I said throughout my recording. And you can see the video portion over here. Down here, now one thing you might notice straight away is a little bit like Word does with spell checker. It has underlined all of your sort of filler words. Now you'll see I use and are a little bit. Occasionally I might duplicate my words there. One of my go-to filler words is or sort of. I've probably said it a few times during this already. What it does is it picks them up and you can either remove them completely. Now, sometimes you want to do that, sometimes you don't. What I prefer to generally do is first go through myself and take out anywhere it's really long ones where I've put, 3 or 4 of them in a row. And then I can just hit the little strike through button there, which is ignore. And then that way I'm not getting rid of all of the little ums because that would make it sound really unnatural. And also, especially with video, you can see the jumps if you start over editing. But especially when it's at the beginning of a sentence or beginning of a paragraph, removing some of those is okay. Now, if I just hit remove like that, it removes it from the video as well. So if I hit play from, say, there,
Retail, I've done hospitality, there's been coaching, there's been a number of.
all right, so what it did there was it skipped over, it removed that from the video as well as from the transcript, but it left that one there for me. What I do like to do is actually not delete them all. As I say, it does make it really jumpy if I do that, but I like to remove from transcript. That way I have a nice clean transcript. And also if I'm captioning the video, which I will be, it takes them out of the words. So you're not actually seeing, even if I say or are or it doesn't bring them up in the captions, which is really nice and a lot nicer for people to watch. They don't need to know, if they're watching on mute, they don't need to know that you just said or are or or whatever it might be. They just want to read the content. So that's a really nice little tip there. So what I've got is all of my transcript, which has been ever so slightly edited there. I've still got my video in a horizontal format. Now for this, I actually want to turn it into a vertical format so that I can use it for Reels or TikTok or Shorts or whatever it might be. So for that, what I want to do is this little button up here, aspect ratio and video settings. I just want to change it. It already says Instagram, TikTok, makes it really easy for you. You can choose other, but it already makes it 9:16 like that. Now, here's the fun bit. I've got these big black bars around me because this was originally shot in landscape mode. So what I want to do is click on the video and this little sub menu will come up above it. I want to hit position and I want to go fill. All right, I'm not quite centered there, so I'm just going to move it over a little bit. So you just double click and then drag it around to where you want it. And then I'm going to add captions. It's pulling the captions straight from the transcript here, which means any fixes I might make in the transcript, such as removing those ums and ahs, are going to come across here. So I can see here that ADHD, it's put that into A space DHD. So I can just highlight that and hit correct. If there's something like it uses American spelling, so if you find something that is like recognized with the Z or something like that, you can actually hit correct all, and it does the same thing as like your search and replace does in Microsoft Word, which we should all be fairly used to. Now I'm going to hit correct all because I can see that it's done that up higher as well. So it finds them all for me. It gives me a quick preview. It found 11 instances of it, so that rather than having to go through and change all 11 instances, I can just hit correct all, and it's going to correct that for me. Now you can edit your caption style in here. You can change the text, you can change the style. I normally make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Pull it up just a little bit because we know on Instagram and TikTok in particular, it takes up this bottom section with your caption and buttons and things like that. Also be careful on your right-hand side. Don't put anything too important there. Just a little tip while we're at it. So now I've got a portrait captioned video. In here, you've also got things like Studio Sound. Studio Sound, have a play with it if you like. Look, it sometimes is nice at doing things like removing background noise or making you sound a little bit nicer. I prefer to do my sound editing elsewhere just because I do find it a little bit overdone. Now, there are all sorts of things you can play around with here. Eye contact is actually pretty cool. If someone is looking just slightly left or right or up or below the camera, it'll fix that a little bit. But always rewatch it when you make any of these edits, because every now and then, as we know with stuff like this, it can make you look a little bit weird if it stuffs up. So always rewatch your work. But that's not why we're here. Why are we here? We've got this great big block of text. We've now got our video looking good. So this is one of the reasons I like Descript. I can now go down here to repurpose and go create clips. You can choose the number of clips you want. Always choose more than you actually want, because sometimes if you choose, oh yeah, I only want 3 clips today, if you only like one of those clips, you're going to have to go back and do it again. Whereas if you tell it to choose 9 and you only want 3, which is probably what we're going to do today, then chances are out of the 9 that it finds, if it finds 9, you'll like some of them. I want them to be, I'm going to tell it 50 seconds. It always goes, almost always goes a little bit over. So if I tell it 50 seconds, it'll probably go up to around 60 seconds. And I've just told it to grab snappy bits of insight. You can get really granular there. You can tell it that you only want it to cover off certain topics in your clips. But in this instance, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to hit submit. It takes a few minutes. It gets a little bit smart alecky up here. And then it's given me my clips. It's given me a bit of a blurb about each clip there, but I can click on them and I can have a look now at what it has pulled out. Now, if I hit done on that, I don't have to read through all of them. What it's done over here in my main project is it's actually made a folder called clips, and it's given me all of those. So I can now go through those one by one as I like and see if I like them or not. So this one, all right. And so what it does is sometimes it'll give you a little bit of text that it has already crossed out. Now, why does it include that, you might think? Why it includes that is because it thinks, this could be handy. We're a bit over time already. This might add context, it might not. You know, as a bot, I'm only so clever, but here's a little bit of extra around it if that helps you, so that you don't have to go back and find it and add it in. So sometimes it'll do that. But this one, stepping away from the schema, there's an email, but being able to come out and say, yeah, da, da, da. All right, I'd probably remove the take care out of that for a reel. But other than that, that looks like a pretty good reel. See, it's brought across my formatting there. Now, ordinarily, I would play through it and just make sure it sounds okay, that sort of thing, that it hasn't cut anything off too badly. And then I would just export that one clip. Now, already you can see it's going to take a while to export. It'll sit there and render while we play around. It's given me all of these clips. Now I can go in, I can edit them, and I might only like from there down. I might not want any of the stuff up there, in which case I would just cross it all out. but it's already given me, from a 15-minute thing, it's given me a bunch of clips to choose from. So that's all of my clips, but what else am I going to do from this video? What am I going to do? I've got my transcript there. I've got my Canva. Whoop, gone over to my second screen. Hang on. I've got my Canva here. Got an Instagram post there. And just for purposes of these, I'm just going to chuck a quote one there. Just one of the things that came up. Going to change the style over to my colors and fonts. Yeah, kind of like that. And I'm going to find a quote, but I'm not going to do it by reading all of that myself right now. I'm going to go find highlights, inspirational quote that's going to highlight it for me, and I'll see what it brings up as my highlights. Now, if I wanted to, because my ChatGPT knows me quite well and I've trained it quite well, I could take this entire bunch of text, chuck it into ChatGPT, and say to it, pull out a bunch of quotes from this that would make great posts. But I'm going to do it manually for here just to see what it says. Okay. Which ones does it like? No, you know what? I actually don't like that much. I don't like what it's bought me. So I'm going to hit Control A, Control C. So Control A, select all, Control C, copy. And I am going to open up a Chatty window. Now, as I say, Chatty knows me quite well. And I'm going to say, out of this transcript, give me, in my tone, because it already knows me, give me in my tone 3 quote posts for Insta, including captions, and 2 carousel posts, including captions. And then I'm just going to paste the transcript in there. Now, my Chatty has already been taught as well before to always remember my transcript as my tone. So it's learning from exactly how I talk, not just how I type, but exactly how I talk. It's learning my tone, my personality, how I phrase things, because it remembers every time, updated saved memory. It saves it because I've told it to. So it's given me a few here. Some days I'm an idea machine, other days a glass on the bench defeats me. That's ADHD for you. I actually don't mind that. You don't have to do your to-do list in order. I think that one's the one I want to use today. I'm going to pull Canva back up. So another thing that I'm now going to use Chatty to do is I'm going to get it to write my alt text or my alternative text for accessibility. So I've already set up a little chatbot, which is public. I can give you the link for it. And all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to screenshot, probably not the most efficient way of doing it, but I'm going to screenshot that. It's already, when I use the snipping tool in Windows, it already puts it onto my clipboard, so I don't have to hit copy, and I just hit paste in there. There we go. And once it loads, it's a little slow because I'm recording. Pop it in there. Already trained this one to give me my alt text for accessibility. And you can always refine it. It always asks a few questions. If it's got a picture of a person, it'll say, do you want me to include the name of the person? So there we go. I've got my alt text for my image. I've got my image, and up here I have my suggested caption, which I could muck around with a little bit. There we go. I've already got, just in these couple of minutes, I've got a reel, I've got a quote post, and then I've got some suggested carousel posts as well that I could play with, all from this one piece of content. Now, of course, you would tweak these to make them sound a little bit better. You don't generally just copy and paste straight from ChatGPT. But what you could also do now is, in Chatty, if you like, you could also say, give me the copy for an email based on this, with the CTA to be to check out the podcast episode in full. And it's actually not too bad because I've trained it. You can train yours as well. Okay, so now I've got an email. I've got an email, I've got a reel or two or three or four, and I've got carousel posts and I've got quote posts. I could also now say, now give me a long form blog post based on the transcript. And there we go. Now, some of that is feeling a little bit overdone, so I would rewrite some of it. But what it's done is it's put my thoughts, it's put what I spoke about into an order that makes a bit more sense to read through. So I might even take some of that straight from here, fix up the grammar and punctuation a little bit into something that is more suitable for writing. And I might actually just copy and paste some of my exact words into the blog post so that it definitely sounds like me. It has no choice. It was me talking. So there we have it. We have one piece of long form content turned into reels, turned into carousel posts, turned into quote posts, turned into an email, turned into a blog post. That's 5 types of content from one 15-minute recording. And that, folks, is how I do it.